I got asked a really good question the other day, which is why do I think 3D's had such a hard time getting off the ground in lots of companies? And I think it's because oftentimes people don't start with the goal in mind, or another way to put it is they have a solution looking for a problem. And that is not the way to go about it. I mean, if you listen to what people are talking about with AI, for instance, or it happened with the metaverse too, the way to use AI to solve problems is not to just say, let's throw AI at everything. It's instead to clearly define what are the problems we're having and then see if AI might be a tool that solves for that. And I think you're going to see a lot of really successful implementations and probably a lot of failed stuff too coming up soon. But the same really holds true for 3D. So if you're starting from the e-commerce perspective, maybe you're not creating the assets in-house. Maybe someone else is creating the assets for you. If you are, test on e-commerce, define that test. Have a small team that can iterate really quickly. Make sure that you give it enough time to actually see results and enough SKUs to see results that are meaningful, because that's something else we see frequently as people run a POC and they're like, oh, I don't know, it didn't really change things. It didn't really move the needle for us. Well, there's a lot of factors there. Was it the first carousel image or was it the fifth? Which regions were you testing it in? Which product categories were you testing it in? And all of this takes time and some learnings, but you need a small team that can move quickly on it, with that being their number one priority. Once you have that success, you can justify the investment. And it doesn't have to start on the e-commerce side. You could also be looking at DPC. So you could be saying, we want to reduce physical samples, and that's the goal. Well, you need to start small. You need to have a team that is capable to start. So you need to make sure you're bringing in external people if you don't have them internally, and you need to give them the freedom to really kind of run with things and iterate. Instead, bureaucracy starts to drag some of these teams down, or someone sees something exciting like the fact they can get some renders earlier, and then all of a sudden the resources start getting sucked away from what was the initial goal. And when that happens, then you don't have that measurable success or those learnings that you can then take and build upon. And we see that kind of time and time again, especially when we hear like there's just not, leadership's not willing to invest more in 3D. It hasn't delivered on some of the promises. And I'd argue that it's a lot less about the technology and a lot more about organizational change and how are you trying to implement something that's new. Because if you're really any type of company, if you're a product company today, which is a lot of who we deal with, a core competency you're going to need to develop is the ability to adopt new technologies, because the rate of change is only increasing. So it doesn't really matter if it's 3D or if it's AI or something else. They're coming down the pipe faster than ever, and your ability to compete is going to be extremely dependent upon how quickly can we implement some of these new technologies and change as an organization. And if you can't change quickly, it's going to be a problem. And I don't think it's just about 3D, but I just wanted to talk for a minute today about the importance of finding a goal, defining the goal, giving the team the autonomy to go after it and iterate on it, and using that as your kind of case study and your ground truth to go iterate and test elsewhere. That's the rant for today. Have a great day.